Hey gang, Bronco Carl 92 here. So for today's video we have a 2007 Jeep Grand Cherokee with a leaky intake manifold. We're going to fix her up. So a few weeks ago I had Jackson's Jeep over here with a bad water pump. So the check engine light's been on this baby for a while. It's determined that the intake manifold is leaking at the sealing surface. I put knock sensors on this Jeep about 2 years ago. And since then the Jeep was okay. It developed a problem where it's got lean running codes, oxygen sensor codes, random misfires. It runs terrible when it's cold. As soon as it warms up, it seems to be okay. I scanned it. I got some codes. I got to get them again because I diagnosed this a couple weeks ago. What I'm thinking is the intake manifold is leaking at the base on the driver's side of the engine. The intake, when I had removed it to do the knock sensors, looked a little bit melted. I had flat filed it as best I could and installed new gaskets, but I think over time that repair kind of went away, so we're going to put a new Mopar intake manifold on this Jeep. So let's put the scanner on there and take a look at what we got. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we have a multiple cylinder misfire fault. That's a P0300. And then we have a P1128, a manufacturer specific code. I believe when I looked that up, that was related to the oxygen sensor or lean, like a lean mixture. And then we have a P0132. It's a O2 sensor circuit, high voltage, bank 1, sensor 1. The oxygen sensor was replaced, as I had mentioned, and the issue persists. So I believe the issue would be due to unmetered air or like an air leak. So like I said, I remember the intake manifold was messed up on this thing, so we're going to replace it. Okay, so this cold start in the morning here. It's in the 30s. So the high idle doesn't seem to be too bad, but once the idle drops down, it starts to lope a little bit. When you drive it, it definitely chugs. And I'm really thinking that putting the intake on here is going to fix it, considering that Jackson's mechanic, the other mechanic that Jackson took this to, put oxygen sensors on here and hasn't really been able to get to the problem. So let's take it for a quick drive. Definitely not the smoothest. I have to say the throttle response is actually quite poor when it's cold like this. It seems like I gotta give it a lot of pedal to get this thing to go, and she's shaking. Alright, so anyway, I usually find it kind of suspicious when you can purchase a Mopar factory intake manifold from any normal auto parts store or online like Rock Auto. So here's what we got. We got a nice factory intake here. Comes with all the gaskets. It actually comes with a sensor on the back, bolts, and I'm also going to replace the ignition coils and the spark plugs while we're at it. Coils are actually really quite cheap, about $8 a piece, so while they're out, why not change them? Truck has 117,000 miles on it. Coils do wear out. So we're going to change it. Okay, I also wanted to mention that I already had this intake manifold off in another video, and I don't think anybody's really interested in watching me do that again. So what I'll do is I'm going to remove the intake, and then I'll show the issue with the intake, and then we'll put it back together and go for the final result. Okay? Stay tuned. Okay, so we have our intake off. I have the old intake manifold on the left here and the new one on the right. And the issue, like I said, was related to a lean mixture on bank 1. And if you look at the way these gaskets are, they're just not crushing properly. And I believe this is where our intake leak is, actually right here on this cylinder. And of course our new manifold looks obviously much nicer. And the manifold was actually quite cheap, a little over $200. So anyhow, I'm going to throw the intake in place, and we'll put you back on in a little bit. Alright, so we got everything buttoned up. Intake's in there. Got new coils, plugs. Let's see if it starts. It sounds pretty good. Okay, so it's evening now. Got back from a ride with the Jeep a little bit ago. Everything seems to be good now. We took it out of the garage and took it for a ride before the check engine light decided to come back on. But the good news is it's now a new code. I don't know if that's really good news, but it's a different code. P0115, coolant temperature sensor, open circuit. I suppose from connecting and disconnecting and connecting the sensor, the connection inside the sensor just decided to not want to work anymore. I ohmed it out and it was open, so ran down to advance, got a new sensor, bolted it in, took the Jeep for a couple more rides, and everything's good now. I guess when you start getting a lot of mileage and age, all the heat and everything can cause problems with connections and wiring and stuff like that. So I suppose that could be expected. Kind of stinks, but at the end, it's fixed. So anyway, as always, thanks for watching Bronco Carl 92, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.